You think you know who you are. You walk around with a name, a job title, a past. You say, "This is me." But what if I told you, none of it is you? Carl Jung didn't just believe you were unaware of your true self. He believed you were completely disconnected from it. Not because you're weak, but because the modern world taught you how to perform, not how to be. Let me explain. From childhood, you were rewarded when you smiled, even if you didn't feel like it. You were punished when you got angry, even if that anger was valid. You were praised for being quiet, sweet, polite. And slowly, you started learning. Only certain parts of me are allowed to exist. This is the moment your false self was born. And the true self, your instincts, emotions, wild thoughts, strange desires, was sent underground. Jung called this the shadow, not because it was evil, but because it was hidden. And here's the brutal truth. The longer you live ignoring your shadow, the more power it has over your life. You'll be polite in public, but you'll rage in private. You'll help everyone, but secretly resent them for not helping you back. You'll love someone, but feel terrified they'll leave, because deep down, you don't know if you're even worth staying for. And still, you'll tell yourself, "This is just who I am." But it's not. What you're experiencing is not your identity. It's your adaptation, your carefully constructed mask. And Jung warned, if you keep identifying with the mask, you'll wake up one day and realize you've spent your entire life being someone the world asked you to be, instead of someone you actually are. Let that sink in. How many things have you agreed to just to avoid rejection? How many times have you laughed at a joke that made your skin crawl? How many dreams have you buried because someone told you they were unrealistic? This isn't just sadness. This is psychological self-abandonment. And Jung believed that the path to healing isn't about becoming better. It's about becoming real. But real is painful, because becoming real means admitting you've been faking for years. It means confronting your envy, your jealousy, your rage. It means admitting you're lonely, even when surrounded by people. It means realizing that you've been making decisions not from freedom, but from fear. Jung once said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate." Read that again. This is the reason your relationships repeat the same patterns. This is why you attract people who hurt you. This is why your dreams stay locked inside your head. Because something deep within you is still controlling the wheel. And you don't even know it's there. So how do you begin to find the real you? Start here. Watch how you react to others. Every time you feel judgmental, irritated, insecure, pause. Ask, is this about them? Or is it revealing something about me? Your reactions are maps. They point to buried emotions, unmet needs, unresolved wounds. Let's say you hate people who show off. Why? Is it because you were never allowed to express yourself freely? Let's say you feel weirdly jealous when a friend succeeds. Why? Is it because you abandoned your own ambition years ago? Jung believed these uncomfortable reactions are mirrors. And once you learn to read them, you start uncovering the real self hiding beneath the social performance. And here's where it gets terrifying. The real you is not always likable. Sometimes it's angry. Sometimes it's selfish. Sometimes it wants to burn everything to the ground. But here's the twist. That version of you, that chaotic, emotional, honest, raw self, it's the only version that can be loved, because it's the only version that's real. And without realness, there is no love, only approval, only acceptance that's conditional, only connection based on what you provide, not who you are. So ask yourself, when was the last time you showed someone the real you? Not the filtered version, not the calm one, not the impressive one, the uncomfortable, raw, contradictory you. And did they stay? Because Jung believed the self you're scared to show is the self you most need to trust. If you've ever asked yourself, why do I keep ending up in the same pain over and over? There's something you need to understand. The patterns you live out today didn't start with you. They started with the child you once were. A child who didn't know how to explain fear. A child who didn't know what to do when love was withdrawn. A child who only had one instinct. I must adapt, or I will not survive. You see, Carl Jung believed our shadow, the hidden parts of ourselves, are not random. They're shaped in our earliest moments, formed when we're too young to even speak. And once these fragments are pushed into the unconscious, they become the blueprint for your entire emotional life. Think of a child who learns that anger leads to punishment. What happens? They hide it. They become soft, agreeable, and passive. Everyone praises them. You're such a good boy. You're such a sweet girl. But deep down, that anger doesn't disappear. It becomes a silent storm, a shadow waiting to explode years later, in a breakup, in a betrayal, or even in depression. Now think of a child who only receives love when they perform. They bring home good grades, win prizes, smile on cue. And the parents, love flows. But the moment they break down, get tired, feel scared, cry too much, that same love turns cold. What do they learn? I am only lovable when I'm useful. So they grow up to be hyper-independent. They don't ask for help. They become the strong one, the achiever, the perfectionist. But at night, when the world goes quiet, they feel like frauds, because no one really knows them, not even themselves. This is the heart of shadow psychology. Jung said the shadow is everything you refuse to be. But here's the twist. You didn't choose to refuse it. You were trained to. And until you face those trained responses, you'll mistake them for personality. You'll think being a people pleaser is just who you are. You'll think emotional numbness is just being mature. You'll think being unable to trust is just being realistic. But all of those are adaptations, trauma responses with good PR. And here's where it gets dangerous. The shadow doesn't stay quiet. It leaks. You think you're in control, but you're not. Because the shadow operates in silence. It chooses your partners. It sabotages your opportunities. It repeats the same friendships, the same arguments, the same heartbreaks, until you finally ask, is this actually me? Or is this the pain of my past reliving itself through me? Let's break it down with a real example. Imagine someone who constantly feels abandoned. They text people first. They check if others are angry. They feel hurt when people don't reply fast. Now, on the surface, they might say, I'm just an overthinker. But Jung would ask, where was the first abandonment? Maybe they had an emotionally distant parent. Maybe love was inconsistent, sometimes warm, sometimes ice cold. So the child internalized, people disappear. I must cling harder. And that belief never got questioned. It grew up with them, turned into anxious attachment, turned into panic, jealousy, rage, self-hate. And they wonder, why do I always get left behind? Jung would say, Because the child inside you is still the one handling your adult relationships. And until you meet that child, until you let them speak, you will keep bleeding from wounds you pretend don't exist. Now let's flip it. Take someone who avoids closeness. They don't open up easily. They disappear when things get too real. They say they like freedom, space, independence. But underneath, maybe they were once betrayed. Maybe they saw chaos in their home and said, "I will never let anyone have that kind of power over me." So now, even love feels dangerous. So they stay distant, detached, safe, but also lonely. Because even though they run from pain, they're also running from connection. This is what Jung meant when he said, "We meet ourselves time and again in 1,000 disguises on the path of life." We think the problem is out there. They don't understand me. They always leave. They're too much. But the pattern, it's within. And until you become conscious of it, you'll keep attracting mirrors instead of relationships. Not lovers, but reflections of your wounds. So what can you do? You begin the work of integration. Integration is not healing in the fix yourself sense. It's not about becoming perfect. It's about becoming whole. That means allowing yourself to feel anger without shame, admitting you crave attention without guilt, owning your fear of failure without performing strength, reclaiming your needs instead of pretending you have none. It means walking back into your childhood, not to blame, but to understand. You begin to reparent yourself. You say to the little version of you, "I'm listening now. You don't have to scream anymore. You don't have to sabotage my relationships to get my attention. I see you." And that act of seeing yourself, your pain, your survival mechanisms, your abandoned parts, is what Jung called individuation. It's the journey of becoming your real self, not the one you built to earn love. But be warned, this path will ruin your illusions. You'll start seeing how many people you attracted just to feel safe. You'll realize how often you've abandoned yourself to be accepted. You'll feel grief, rage, loss. But on the other side, you become unstoppable. Because once you stop needing approval, once you stop rejecting the parts of you that hurt, you become someone no longer controlled by fear. You become someone who doesn't chase love, but chooses it. You become someone who knows who they are, even when no one is watching. That's power. That's freedom. That's Jungian transformation. You've made it this far. That means something inside you is waking up. A voice you've ignored for too long is finally whispering, "I want to live as me, not a version of me, not a mask, just me." But that raises a terrifying question. What does me even mean? If you've been performing your entire life, Carl Jung called the process of reclaiming the real you individuation, not self-improvement, not optimization, not success, but becoming whole, reuniting the parts of you that got exiled, shamed, silenced. So how do you start living as that whole person? Let's get real. This isn't about sitting in a cave and journaling about your childhood for 10 years. This is about how you walk into work, how you respond to texts, how you love, how you say no, how you exist when nobody's watching. Because your true self is not a theory. It's a practice. Here's what that practice looks like. Let's say you've always been the peacemaker. You avoid conflict. You say yes when you mean no. You smile when your chest feels like screaming. Your shadow is probably anger. So the next time someone crosses your boundary, and you feel that familiar rising heat. Don't suppress it. Don't turn it into a joke. Don't gaslight yourself. Instead, pause. Ask, what would the version of me who actually values themselves do right now? Maybe you speak up. Maybe your voice shakes. Maybe they get uncomfortable. But here's the thing. If being your real self costs you someone, they were only ever loyal to your performance. And that is not love. Jung believed the more you integrate your shadow, the more integrity you build. And integrity doesn't mean being perfect. It means being honest, even when it's ugly. Especially when it's ugly. Let's go further. Say you've always been emotionally strong. You don't cry. You give advice. You hold everyone together. And yet, deep down, you're exhausted, lonely, falling apart. Your shadow is vulnerability. So the next time someone asks if you're okay, and you instinctively say, I'm fine, catch it, and say, actually, I'm not. Simple, brutal, true. That one sentence might shake your entire nervous system. You might feel exposed, weak, guilty. But you just did something profound. You let someone meet the real you. And when someone loves your real self, not your mask, not your performance, not your usefulness, you finally feel safe. Not safe because nothing will go wrong, but safe because you no longer have to betray yourself to be accepted. That is the power of Jung's work. It doesn't promise you comfort. It promises you authenticity. And authentic living has a cost. You will lose people. You will outgrow places, roles, even dreams. Because when you stop betraying yourself, you can't tolerate people or systems that demand you stay small. You'll feel rage when you're told to be polite. You'll feel grief when you realize how long you've performed. You'll feel terror when you start choosing what you want, not what will make you likable. But that pain, that's your rebirth. That's your old self dying. The self built from guilt, fear, shame. And your new self, the real one, will be strange at first. You won't know what to wear, how to speak, who to trust. Because when you live behind a mask for too long, freedom feels dangerous. But keep going. Soon, your nervous system will adjust. Your body will relax. Your voice will stabilize. You'll stop rehearsing conversations. You'll stop apologizing for existing. You'll walk into a room and feel like you belong. Not because they accept you, but because you accept you. Let's talk about legacy. Because this work isn't just about healing. It's about breaking chains. When you choose to live as your real self, you're not just transforming your life. You're transforming generations. You're ending the cycle of emotional silence. You're ending the pattern of performance-based love. You're showing the next child, your child, someone else's child, that it is safe to be human. That being emotional isn't weakness. That boundaries are sacred. That the parts they were told to hide are the parts that make them whole. Jung knew this. That's why he didn't just work with symptoms. He worked with souls. He didn't want you to be happy. He wanted you to be real. Because only the real you can experience real love. Only the real you can walk a path that's yours. Only the real you can look in the mirror and say, this is who I am, and I'm not ashamed. So what now? Look at your life. What roles are you still performing? What parts of yourself do you only allow in secret? What do you keep silent, hidden, swallowed? Don't try to fix it all today. Don't rush the transformation. Instead, choose one moment, one response, one boundary, one truth. Speak it, live it, let it shake you. That's how the journey begins. You don't need 1,000 answers. You need one decision. I will no longer abandon myself. That's when your life begins to rearrange. That's when the world starts responding differently. That's when people feel your energy shift. Not because you became someone else, but because you finally became you. Now tell me, what is one thing you're going to stop hiding starting today? Drop it in the comments. Let's build a space where real people finally meet. And if this video awakened something inside you, smash the like button, subscribe, and consider sending a super thanks to support more content like this. Because in a world obsessed with perfection, we need more people brave enough to be real. Let it begin with you.